slot in who we played.
Yeah.
I've got an algorithm for matching up the relegated promoted teams, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a 6 point delta. So
6 point off. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So Tim,
Okay.
before we get off of Watford, I know that you have a couple of more points that you would like to put out there and have the panel discuss. So go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I don't want to leave this match without talking about Trippier because I think we've been tough on him in the last couple of weeks, and rightfully so because he's played poorly. But I think in this game he looked much better than he has in the past. He offered a lot moving forward, and I think a big part of that had to do with Dyer's presence back in the midfield, someone he's comfortable playing with. Moving back to a formation he's comfortable playing with, the 4-2-3-1. You could see up until the red card when we had to change out of that formation and move Dyer back to the defense, we were creating a lot of chances, especially down his side of the pitch. Now, Davies, on the other hand, I didn't see him doing much in this game, and he started off the year hot, and he's kind of regressed since then. But I want to give credit to Trips because we have been tough on him over the past couple of podcasts,
Yeah.
but I think he played a very good game.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you, and I don't think that we are too far away from Pochettino maybe experimenting with this wingback situation and mixing it up a little bit. It's been Aurier and Rose, or it's been Davis and Trips, and I believe I can fully see a Trippier-Rose type of partnership in the near future, getting some of the speed interjected back up that left side and less of the possession. We've talked about what we need to try to break teams down, and speed doesn't always offer you that, but Rose also has a tendency to be very fluid with the ball, and I think that is going to be needed once his fitness fully returns to where he can be integrated back into the squad. And obviously we're 3 weeks away from a transfer window, so a lot of rumor and speculation out there. We'll discuss some of that next show. Moving forward, I want to talk to, and Jared, I'm going to start with you on this one. A lot of social media meltdown. We've talked about it. People have the right to bitch and moan if they want to bitch and moan on social media. In your opinion, though, are we still ahead of schedule with this Pochettino project? And what do you think the next steps are as a fan when you look at this thing? What's the next progression?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like half of my job, I feel like, is dealing with the various assessments of coaches and coaching staffs and managers, if you will. And I guess so. I have a tough time with this. I don't have, like with the Rangers, for instance, I'm very level-headed and I try to stay away from knee-jerk stuff. I'm not like that with any other team. And I really thought that this year was going to be a year where unfinished business from the past 2 years would get taken care of. Now, some of that's out of the team's control with the way how well other clubs are performing, and obviously Tottenham can't play Man City every single week, so they don't really have a lot of control over that. But I don't know. I just, there's something about it, and you guys break this stuff down way better than I do, way better than I can. But watching the team this year with all the new blood, it doesn't. I know that last year got off to a slow start, and then things picked up, and this year to some degree maybe a little bit of the same. But it doesn't seem like there has been a step forward in the way that I would have hoped. But I don't know whose fault that. I don't know that that's necessarily all on Poch. And you look at the way this team's played in Champions League. I mean, that's been awesome. It just unfortunately hasn't really carried over, especially of late in league play. But I don't know. I believe in this guy. It seems like the guys like him, and that to me, from my experiences in other sports, that's such a huge part of it. I know you're not going to make everyone happy. Not everyone's going to love the boss in any job, but it does seem like more than not, players enjoy playing for him, and the players enjoy playing together. And I think that's an environment that he has to help create. So I'm okay. Whether the project is gone off course a little bit this year or not, I still am confident in where it's headed, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And Vass, we've talked about that. The end goal this year, listen, as most fans would like silverware, the end goal this year is to try to be in Champions League, if at all possible, opening up that new stadium. So yes, there is a new stadium on the horizon. We are in the final 16 of Champions League with a draw coming up. we will have an opportunity to play very well in the FA Cup. And Pochettino, to at least on the surface, has said the league is out of reach right now in terms of winning the league, but obviously top four is still the goal. Do you feel that more patience is warranted by fans? Are we on track? Or are we a little bit ahead of schedule with this Pochettino project?
We are ahead of schedule in as far as the last 2 seasons were kind of way ahead of schedule. I don't think Pochettino was looking for consistent Champions League placings so quickly. Nevertheless, we've had them, and we need to build on that. So from that aspect, it's been a little bit of a step back this season so far. But it's early days. We are 3 points behind the Gooners and 4 points behind Liverpool. We haven't become detached from the race for Champions League totally, as disappointing as the recent results have been. I think it's something that... sorry, I can hear crackling on the line. I don't know if that's me or not. But yeah, so we need to get Champions League. Having another tilt at the title was always going to be a big ask this season, playing at Wembley as well. And whilst we are sort of 6 points off the pace, when you consider how well Manchester City have done, it's just thrown another tilt at the title, sort of way off course. So I think Champions League has got to be the priority, getting back into Champions League and then taking that into the new stadium with us. And I think we just got to focus on that. The players are all saying the right thing. Pochettino's saying, the right things in as far as going through periods like this is going to make men out of the squad, which I can understand. But I do believe it is a time for patience and understanding, although that's very difficult in football fandom.
Yeah.
Can I
Go ahead,
Can I get up on the soapbox? Because I want to bitch and moan for a bit.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Go for it.
I'm gonna take it the other way because I am pissed off right now. This form over the last 6 matches, 3 losses, 2 draws, 1 win. The win, we looked poor against Palace. The draw against West Brom, we looked poor. Lost 4 total games all last season, and we almost equaled that in a single month.
Yeah.
And it could have easily have been 5 losses. Watford should have had a penalty kick on Dyer's handball at the end of the match. That's my opinion. It was a handball in the box. West Brom should have put it away on that sliding chance by Rondon that he missed it. We could have been looking at 5 losses over the last 6 matches. And I want to caveat this. I am not on the Poch out train. I love Poch. I believe in him. I believe in his project. But I think he deserves some direct blame for our form over the past 6 matches, and that's due to his changes in personnel. Every single game, the wingbacks are swapped. Not just one of them, both of them. Every single game, the defensive midfield pairings are changed up. We haven't settled on a starting 11. We haven't settled on players, allowing them to play consistently together, to build some experience and some chemistry with each other. We need to allow them to build. And look at, City. They play a 4-3-3. Even with the Champions League and league play, they keep the same 3 in the midfield. If they're changing someone, it's only 1 player, not 2 of them. Same with their defense. If they're changing 1 player, it's usually Walker giving him a rest, but it's not 2 of them unless it's required by injury. They're keeping a consistent starting 11, and they're building that chemistry. Look at Leicester when they won the title. They played the same starting 11, and I get it. They didn't have the fixture congestion. We have that, but we need to settle on a starting 11. Don't rotate them every single game, alternating players in, players out each and every game. Maybe give them a rest every 3rd game or when needed. These players are fit enough. They can play 2 games in a row. They can play 3 games in a row. And I think that's just the problem. And you saw when this past game against Watford, when we had Dyer in the midfield, that chemistry he has with Trippier, when we went back to the 4-2-3-1, it's because they're able to play together. They've played together. They have that chemistry. And I think that's what we're lacking. We're just not able to build on anything when we change it so often. And I think that falls directly on Pochettino for not picking a starting 11, for rotating too much. And I mean, I might be the only one that feels this way, but I think you can give that blame directly on
Do you,
Pochettino.
do you
I'm
not
pissed
think
off
part of
about
that? Do you not think that part of that though is down to the injuries we've had? I mean, Harry Winks came in for a period. Harry Winks came in for a period into that central mirror. Listen, okay, I get what you're saying about the fullbacks. Rose is only just recovering. Don't forget. And I share your frustrations. I do, and I can see precisely where you're coming from. But we've had Winks come into the central midfield and do really well, and then he got injured. And then we have Dembele coming into the central midfield, and he's not fully fit. And then we have Rose coming back into the left-back area, and he's not fully fit. And losing Toby and Wanyama is going to affect us. So whilst I get what you're saying, and perhaps he needs to look for his settled side, Pochettino, number one, has never been like that. He settles his side, but he rotates his fullbacks. He did it last season. He did it the season before. He's big on fitness and body conditioning, etc. And that's why he's going to try and keep his players fresh. So perhaps he will change a bit more than Guardiola does at City, for example.
Yeah.
But I think he would love to have a settled side, or the majority of a settled side. But I don't think we've been able to. I just think the injuries have taken a toll this season. We managed to ride the injuries out last season, but this season it seems to be more niggly stuff constantly. I don't really understand what's happening there. Don't get me wrong, I share what you're saying, Tim, because we haven't built any rhythm, and you're right to highlight that. But I think there's an underlying reason for it as well.
So with the fullbacks, I mean, we saw that when Rose was injured, Davies played every game. My thing is, with Toby being out and us maintaining the high line that we like to play, you need some consistency between the defenders. And changing two of them every single game, that's what upsets me the most. Now, I understand with the midfield, Wanyama being out, we're limited in our options. But it seems like each time it's not that we're just changing one of them out. We're going with a brand new pairing every single time instead of at least sticking with one player who's consistently in there. It's either Winks and Sissoko, Winks with Eriksson dropping back, Dembele coming in with Sissoko, Dembele with Ali dropping back. There's no consistency in it at all. Players are swapping in and out every single game.
Well, it's a factor, certainly it is. And it doesn't help when your forward players aren't firing like they were, because if they were, and we were creating the chances and taking the chances, then these slight sort of deficiencies that you're referring to in our lineup, I think they get overlooked. But because we're not banging in the goals, it's highlighting it. So I accept what you're saying. But I feel that whilst Poch is partly to blame, I think there is a part of it that is kind of being forced on him. So it's kind of getting caught between two stools in some respects.
I agree. I mean, there's multiple things to blame. The slow starts. Our last three matches, we gave up a goal in the 13th minute to Leicester, the 13th minute to West Brom, the 4th minute to West Brom, and then the 13th minute to Watford. Early goals, It changes the game plan. When teams are able to sit back that early on and protect their lead, we already expect them to sit back against us, and then they pick one up in the first 15, 13 minutes. So, I mean, it's not all on Poch, but I think that's the one thing that he can control. Because you see during the games, I mean, against Watford, he put in 3 different formations because he's trying to go for it. He's doing all that he can with the players he puts out there. But, I mean, I just think there is some blame that needs to go towards him for this rough run of form that we've had.
It's not unfair. It's not unfair. I think that there has to be some. At the end of the day, he's the man in charge, isn't he? So it rests with him.
And Simon, we've talked about the Pochettino project a little bit, and what you're fighting against is a team like City, who's going to spend $350 million over the course of 2 transfer windows to shore up their team. And if Liverpool go and do, say, the same thing and buy the defense that they seem to lack, they could be just as dangerous as City. Their attacking options are endless, it seems, and very, very precision based. I mean, they're deadly on the counterattack. If they had any kind of a defense, they'd be up there as well. United also spending the money, and look at where they're at in the table. So you look at the two North London clubs, and do they have to change their wage structure over time? Will the Wembley revenue, combined with a 62,000-seat stadium, Simon, be able to offer us a chance to maybe spend a little more whilst not disrupting what